Here is our fifth lesson in Unit 6. This is going to be a very brief overview of geologic time. So we can't really talk about geologic time without first discussing the geologic time scale. This is pretty much a timeline that divides up Earth's history based on major events. This is the way that geologists and paleontologists and anyone else who studies the history of the Earth kind of categorizes the time of Earth's 4.6 billion year life to make sense of what was going on based on evidence that we have. So we have eons, which are the longest chunk of time, which are then divided into eras, which are divided into periods, and then specifically the periods of the Cenozoic here are divided into even smaller chunks of time called epochs. So I know this is spelled epoch, but it's pronounced epoch. So eons, there are 4 eons that make up Earth's history. The first and oldest one is called the Hadean eon. This is described as being hellish because it is when the Earth was first forming. It was like a hot planet. There was no oceans, there was no life. It was just very, very hot. So this is kind of what was going on in the Hadean eon. The Earth was forming, water came to the Earth. The prevalent theory on the way that water came to the Earth is through bombardment of a bunch of different icy meteor type things that hit the Earth and brought the water with them. The moon was formed, the core was formed. Because of the core, the magnetic field formed. This is all going on in the Hadean time. There's nothing alive on Earth at this time. The next eon is called the Archean eon, and Archean pretty much just means ancient. And so here's what was going on in the Archean eon. You had the ocean started to form because everything started to cool down. Plate tectonics were starting to happen because continents were forming. This important part here, the first prokaryote bacteria. So this is the first time that life appeared on Earth. And then these prokaryotic bacteria were really good at photosynthesis, and so they started pumping out oxygen really fast. The next eon is called the Proterozoic. Proterozoic means early life. Here's what was going on then. So there was this oxygen crisis as these prokaryotic bacteria were making oxygen as a byproduct of their photosynthesis, but it happened to be toxic to them, so a lot of them died. And then eukaryotes, which is what we are, meaning that we have a nucleus in our cells, they started to form. Earth went through a snowball stage where everything got really cold. Multicellular life started to form, so things that don't just have one cell like a bacteria, multicellular life, and then the ozone started to stabilize, which we know that the ozone layer protects us from solar radiation, and so this is kind of what allowed for life to start to really expand on Earth. And that happened during this Phanerozoic eon. Phanerozoic means visible life, so this is when we start to see evidence of like fossils, and this began with what's called the Cambrian explosion. All of these three older eons collectively are called Precambrian time because they happened before this Cambrian explosion. So now to the eras of the Phanerozoic eon. First was the Paleozoic. Paleozoic means ancient life. This started off with the Cambrian explosion. There was a lot of sea life present. The first plants started to form. Some really, really early forms of dinosaurs were alive towards the end of this Paleozoic era. The next era is the Mesozoic, and during the Mesozoic means middle life, you had a lot of forests on land. Dinosaurs were the dominant life species. Some early small mammals started to form. And then after the Mesozoic is the Cenozoic, and the Cenozoic era is the era that we're in right now. Cenozoic means recent life. Mammals are the dominant life species. Birds started to emerge onto the scene. You've got flowering plants that are present throughout the earth. And so these eras, there's pretty distinct extinction events that occurred in between each of these, and so that's how we divided it up, is because something happened that killed most of the species between the Paleozoic and the Mesozoic, and something happened that killed most of the species between the Mesozoic and the Cenozoic. So that's how they divided those three eras up. So the periods are even more specific, smaller chunks of time based on what kind of specific animals or plants were hanging out at the time or the kinds of environmental conditions. So you can see Cambrian, we had some fish. Up here in the Permian, their reptiles were diversifying. In the Cretaceous, dinosaurs went extinct. And up here in the Quaternary, you've got humans starting to evolve. So on to the epochs. The Cenozoic periods are divided up further into epochs because we have really good fossil and paleoclimate data from these times. So remember that paleoclimate means ancient climates, so we can look at like ice cores or carbon content of rocks, or we can look at tree rings, things like that. We can tell what the climate was like. And then there's just a lot of good fossil specimens from these epochs. So for example, here's some fish that were present during the Eocene. Here's the skull of a rhinoceros from the Miocene. And here is a very well preserved specimen of a baby mammoth that is from the Holocene. So modern humans started to emerge onto the earth about 200,000-ish years ago. And so modern humans live in the Holocene epoch of the Quaternary period of the Cenozoic era of the Phanerozoic Eon. And because we've only been around for about 200,000 years, we've only been here for 0.00004% of Earth's entire life. So we're barely a blip in the whole geologic timescale. And here are we.